Please welcome Snowflake's Chief Data Analytics Officer, Anahita Tafvizi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anahita Tafvizi, Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Snowflake. My team here is responsible for building, designing, and deploying data and AI products that power how Snowflake runs. We also have the privilege of being the first customers of our own products. In other words, we use Snowflake to run Snowflake. It's a really exciting time for everyone working with data and AI. The industry is shifting from experimentation to production, from quick prototypes to rigorous enterprise-grade AI systems. At Snowflake, we've been on that same journey alongside many of you. And we've been building and designing AI agent for some time now for multiple functions to use at Snowflake. What we have learned is that while it's not so hard to create an AI agent that generates answers, it's much more difficult to generate high-quality agents with a high accuracy rate in their output so that the teams can trust those answers to act on them. That is particularly true for data and analytics agents, where the bar for accuracy is high. Data agents can give you the wrong answer confidently, and users often don't have a simple way to verify their results themselves. So if there is one idea I hope you take away from this talk, it is this. Trust is what separates an interesting prototype from a system your company can actually run on. And that's the shift we're all seeing. Moving from building interesting AI prototypes to delivering reliable, trusted system that teams can actually use. We've all seen this pattern before. A proof of concept that looks amazing in the demo, everyone's excited, and then nothing. It never makes it into production, or worse, it launches and no one uses it. All it takes is one wrong answer, one broken access rule, or one moment when a user can't explain why the system produced the results. And adoption stops. Let's say I ask a data agent, what was our Q3 revenue? In this case, there's only one correct answer, down to the penny. It's not probabilistic. But imagine this scenario. The agent gives numbers that look right, sound right, it even cites the right table and the right reference, but it's wrong. That's what we call an analytics hallucination, when an agent confidently presents a number that's plausible but false. And again, in analytics use cases, that's especially damaging. As I said, there is usually one correct answer, and the bar for accuracy is very high, and users depend on that precision. Let's say if you're in the finance function and you rely on the AI agent for your revenue analysis. You need to be 100% certain that it's giving you the exact correct answer every time. The moment an AI system returns the wrong number, trust collapses. People go back to their SQL queries or spreadsheets, because at least there, they can trace the logic and verify it themselves. We've seen this across the industry. Even the best technology fails when users doubt the system's reasoning or can't validate its sources. So why does this happen? Maybe the underlying data definitions aren't consistent. Maybe there is no way to debug the model's reasoning, or there is no visibility into its chain of thoughts. Or maybe governance policies like role-based access control aren't properly enforced. So users can see the data they shouldn't, or they can't see the data they need to see. That's why trust is a critical currency that determines whether your agent stays a prototype or it becomes a product. You can ship the smartest models in the world, but if your teams can't trust the data lineage, debug the output through a clear reasoning trace, or rely on the system's governance and security guardrails, the adoption simply won't happen. So the challenge isn't just building intelligent systems. It's building credible and secure ones. And that's what led us to develop a framework for engineering trust into every layer of how we build data agents at Snowflake. During this talk, I'll use an example of one of the key agents that we've built for our internal go-to-market team at Snowflake, where they can ask questions of their data, whether it's structured data, such as their revenue information, or unstructured data, such as knowledge materials. I will go through how we ensured accuracy and governance to drive high adoption and retention amongst our users. And then I will show you a demo on how that impacted the results for our sellers. So how do we do this? We've learned that trust isn't a single feature. It's something you have to engineer into the system and into every element of your design from the ground up. We've distilled our experience into a simple framework. We've built trust intentionally across 3 layers. The first layer is trust in the data, grounding the agent in the single verifiable source of truth for your business. The second one is trust in the model, imposing deterministic controls on what is by nature a probabilistic system. And lastly, trust in the system, building the right governance, the right ownership, and the right human oversight into the process. These 3 layers work together to make your AI credible, auditable, and production ready. Let's unpack each layer, starting with the foundation, trust in the data. You have heard this before. There's no AI strategy without a data strategy. That part hasn't changed. The garbage in, garbage out law of AI still holds. But what does that mean in practice? When business users ask questions, they don't think in SQL joins or table names. They think in outcomes, revenue, growth, etc. Now, how do you translate these terms exactly for the AI agent? The fiscal year definition is different for each company. The way you measure retention, similarly, has different nuances depending on the business. How do we give this context to an AI agent? That's what the semantic model comes from. It's the logical map that defines business concepts and metrics centrally, so they're consistent everywhere. At Snowflake, we use semantic views to standardize our core metrics. Each metric has clear lineage, ownership, and validation rules. The next bucket is what we call verified queries. These are pre-approved business and computational logic that are human verified and help with our most nuanced calculations. This is what prevents analytics hallucination. When an analyst runs a SQL query and an agent answers the same question in natural language, both are drawing from the exact same logic underneath. If both get the same number, that consistency becomes the bedrock of trust. The combination of the semantic model with the right definitions and the right set of verified queries is the shared language that we give as context to the AI agent. And it's aligned with how your human analyst accesses and uses data at your company. And note that semantic foundation doesn't just help structured data. It's what allows agents to connect structured and unstructured data together, giving the full context of your company knowledge to your AI agent. That's the first layer of trust. Shared definitions through semantic model and a verified query repository. The next layer is trusting what the model does with the data and semantic layer that we have now defined. Generative models are inherently probabilistic. They're designed to explore possibilities, not guarantees. That's what makes them powerful. But it's also risky for analytics use cases where accuracy matters. So to use them in production, we have to impose deterministic controls, making sure they behave predictably, reliably, and within guardrails. At Snowflake, we think about this in 3 core practices. First, we make it observable and testable. Every agent logs its full chain of thoughts for every query, so our developers can debug and understand how it arrived at an answer. In addition to that, we consistently evaluate performance against a set of, say, 100 ground truth questions with expected answers and reasoning steps. And we automate this evaluation, and we leverage the LLM as a judge to assess accuracy and consistency. Next, we enforce deployment patterns and gates. We leverage software development best practices like CI/CD with dev, staging, and prod environments. And before anything moves to production, it has to pass QA thresholds, accuracy against ground truth questions, consistency across sessions, and the ability to gracefully decline questions it shouldn't answer. Lastly, we iterate post-deployment. Once an agent is in the wild, you quickly learn how users actually use it, and it's almost never what you expected. We monitor real-world latency, accuracy, and in-product feedback, and we iterate on the agent as appropriate. And as we learn more, we also add new verified queries to it so that we continuously improve accuracy and performance over time. The key idea is that observability and evaluations aren't optional for production AI. That's what gives developers and users confidence that the system will behave the same way tomorrow as it did today. Let's now talk about the third layer, trust in the system. Even the best data and most explainable models will fail without the right operational and organizational governance around it. What do I mean by that in practice? Let's walk through a few specifics. Granular security and access controls. We want the right user to access the right data for the right purpose. Agents must inherit permissions directly from the Snowflake objects they access. We enforce this with row-level access control and masking policies to protect sensitive data and to ensure users only see what they're authorized to see. Next one is design reviews as a standard step. Every agent goes through a structured design review before launch. We assess its intended use, its potential risks, and its compliance with data security policies. Next is define trust criteria. Every use case has predefined evaluation metrics. Agents must meet these thresholds before they go live. And last, clear ownerships and accountability. Each deployment has a clear owner, spanning engineering, product, and sometimes legal, who are responsible for the agent's safety, maintenance, and quality post-launch. Sometimes I get the question of how we balance innovation velocity with the governance structure. And I'll tell you this structure doesn't slow us down. In fact, it enables us to move faster because it creates confidence and it future-proofs our technology. Okay, now that we've talked about engineering trust in these three layers, let's go back to our example, our go-to-market AI assistant. And I want to show you a demo with an end user. Chris, who's one of our sales leaders, is using the agent. You will see the elements we show sellers to gain credibility and build trust with them. Let's roll the video.
Hey everyone, my name is Chris. I'm a sales leader with Snowflake based in Toronto, Canada. I've been with Snowflake now since 2018, and over these past 7 years, I gotta say that really using and seeing what Snowflake go-to-market AI assistant can do has me really, really excited. And I wanna show you a little bit about how I use it on a day-to-day basis. Here we go. You really see a super clean interface that you can start to ask natural language questions to get answers to how you want to run your business, or be able to get more insight for your own team, your own value. Take a look. I want to understand what accounts are contributing to my book of business the most, and all I need to do is ask a question. So I can say, show me the top 5 accounts by month-over-month growth rate in consumption revenue for the last 30 days. Now, when I first started to use Snowflake Go-to-Market Assistant, I had the big question of how, right? Like, how can I trust the AI model with the correct analytics, where I used to previously go to my data team or a known dashboard? And what I started to find the more I played with it is that there's a lot of checks in place that I can really start to understand what the data is that's coming back to me. And here's a great example of it. It's gone through a very logical way to be able to get me the response. And I want to really point out this piece right here. First of all, thinking completed, and it says one verified query. So what is a verified query? Verified query is internally at Snowflake, they're able to see that my question that I asked is a very common question. It's part of a common use case. And the data team at Snowflake has built a very good structured SQL to be able to answer that question quickly for me. And it's telling me that by this check mark that this is a verified query. So I'm asking things other people are asking and being able to get an answer that I can trust. You can see here, it does go through the entire SQL to be able to give me my answer. With the results, it starts to plan itself the next steps. One really cool piece here is Otter Solutions. It's the highest month-over-month growth rate at 711.98%. And all of this data is being then surfaced to me in a very digestible format, right? It's giving me the text answer, as well as it's giving me the month-over-month growth rate in form of a chart. It's really cool that Otter's so far out, but I'll take a look at that in a bit. And all of this then gets summarized for me to then take a next step on. So what do I want to do with these verified queries? I want to find a little bit more about, let's just see, what are the top reasons why these accounts are growing, and how can I action this within the rest of my business? Okay, perfect. With that, I've got the result. And what I think is really cool about this is it's showing me not only the result it went through, it's showing me how it got there. I was asking for two different things: the reason why these specific top growing accounts experience such high growth, and how I could use this knowledge to apply it to the rest of my business. It went out and found the information to properly answer the question. It planned its way to answer the question. It continued to look at the data that it already had, and then it produced a result. Now, these results are great. What are the top drivers of growth? But it's also referencing source material. So I know that even though this isn't a verified query this time, you can see that because there's no check mark here. It is showing me the source material. So the verified queries, those green check marks, perfect. The links to source material, if I so choose, I can go in and read a little bit more about why it's come up with the answer, because I can now see the answer, the cited source material. And that for me is why I really do trust using Snowflake Go-to-Market AI Assistant on a day-to-day basis. Anyways, thank you again. I appreciate the time. Hope your teams are excited as I am.
As you saw in the demo, showing the green check mark, the chain of thought detail, and the references to the user ensure that they trust the results. Okay, now let's talk about the results. This is one of the largest internal agents that we have deployed at Snowflake. It's built entirely on Snowflake Intelligence, powered by Cortex AI, and it serves more than 6,000 sales and marketing employees every day. But the real success story is in adoption and user satisfaction. The assistant answers over 12,000 questions a week, and we have achieved more than 90% Net Promoter Score with our early users. And here's why. Every answer is grounded in semantic views so that the definitions matches what analysts use in dashboards and SQL. All responses flow through governance framework, including row-level securities. And users can trace exactly where a number came from and how it was computed. And users can also see when the verified queries are used and what references are used, as you saw in this demo. As we were deploying these agents, we also saw a few consistent anti-patterns that I want to share with you. Here are the big ones to watch for. The first one is the set it and forget it agent. An agent isn't a dashboard. It doesn't stop evolving once it's live. We've seen teams launch an AI assistant and then walk away. No monitoring, no retraining, no versioning. Over time, data drifts, user intent shifts, business needs change, and suddenly the agent starts answering questions it shouldn't. Treat every agent as a living system that requires ongoing testing, feedback, and context adjustments to maintain credibility. Next, failing to scope the use case. Starting with a blank box as the interface to the user gives the illusion that the system can answer anything. We've learned that it's far better to have an agent that handles limited core workflows perfectly than the one that handles everything inconsistently. Set clear boundaries with your agent instructions and in your enablement materials, letting users know exactly what use cases your agent can handle and which ones are out of scope. For example, in the demo we watched, we limited the questions the agent can answer to key Snowflake sales workflows. And if you ask a question about, say, politics, the agent will gracefully decline to answer. These boundaries will also help you set the proper agent instructions, set the right ground truth questions, and implement your evaluation framework to build a trusted ecosystem. Lastly, ad hoc semantics. One of the biggest mistakes we see in teams is creating ad hoc semantic models versus a central, consistent way to look at the business logic and data foundation. This happens when each subteam has its own way of looking at the data foundation and business logic. As an example, consumption revenue is one of the metrics that we saw in the demo, and we want to define that consistently across all semantic views across the company. So here's the big lesson from all of this. If you want your AI systems to be credible, secure, and reusable, you have to build trust into the architecture from day one. When trust is engineered, everything accelerates. Adoption grows because users know they can depend on the output. Developers move faster because they're not firefighting credibility issues. And innovation compounds because teams build on top of what already works. That's exactly what we are enabling with the Snowflake Cortex and Snowflake Intelligence. Systems built to make trust the default, not the exception. And in the end, the system that wins aren't the flashiest or the loudest. It's the one that teams can trust to deliver real work, real impact, and real value. Thank you.